All right, so the last video we talked about just determining if it's the ambiguous case. So I'm going to go back up to our notes to page 3, where we have this chart, and it's very overwhelming. But the ambiguous case, okay, so that's when it's given SSA or ASS, and we just talked about how to determine if it's even the ambiguous case. Now, if it's not the ambiguous case, you have one triangle always, and you move on. Life is good. When it's the ambiguous case, you have options of having no triangle, one triangle, or two triangles. So if it is SSA or SSA, that's also known as the ambiguous case, you can have 0, 1, or 2 triangles. Now, how to determine if it's 0, 1, or 2 is all about the relationship of the two sides given and the angle. So this chart, it's saying it's going to break it up into two categories. So I'm going to go down here and say given angle is acute. The other option is given angle is obtuse. All right, so if your given angle is acute, you're in this little section. And what it's saying here, let's go ahead and change this. A is less than the height, A is equal to the height, A is greater or equal to B, or then A is between your height and the other side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to back it up a little bit and try to do it a little bit easier. And I'm going to compare, let me go ahead and change colors one more time. Corresponding side is smaller than the other side. And I'm going to make more sense of that in a second. I'm not going to get attached to A's because not all the triangles given to us are in terms of A's and B's and C's. Again, just stick with me and I'm going to show you an example. If your corresponding side is smaller than the other side, then it's 0 or 2 triangles. So let me say option 1. Now, option 2 is, let's change colors to make it stand out. Your corresponding side is larger than the other side. And actually, I can say larger or equal to. Then you're going to have one triangle. So let's make sense of that. I'm going to talk about obtuse angles in a second, but we're only going to look for acute angles. So let's go back to example 2. We already filled this out if it's ambiguous or not. So for this first one, it was ambiguous. Now what I mean by corresponding side, which we talked about already, is that's my angle given. This is my corresponding side because your S's match. Now let's think, is S, oops, not that. Now let me see, S compared to R. Is it bigger or smaller? Well, S is bigger than R, right? So what that's telling me here is your corresponding side, forgive this writing, is bigger than the other side. So that puts us in this option, so we know there's only one triangle. All right, so let's go ahead, and my angle's acute, so make sure you check for that. So here, my angle's acute. My corresponding side compared to the other side is bigger, so what do you know? We have one triangle. Let me see if I can find one. It looks like I got a little heavy with them being bigger, so let's just see. A. Okay. So now let's look here. Here, number 9. I have an acute angle, which means less than 90 degrees. My corresponding side is less than the other side. So then that puts us in this category. And that would be 0 or 2. Now, the next set of notes will go over how we determine if it's 0 or 2. Okay. Now, let's talk about the other option. If your angle that's given is obtuse, your options are 1, corresponding side is bigger than other side. The nice thing is you have one triangle. The other option is your corresponding side is less than the other side, 0 triangles. So you only have the option to have this 2 triangle business, which is double the amount of work, which your future videos will go over, is if your given angle is acute. And first off, let me back up. You have the ambiguous case. Always check for that first. If that's true, then you look if your given angle is acute. And if your corresponding side is smaller than the other side, that puts it into this camp. And then you'll have to rely on math to determine if it's 0 or 2. That's the only way you're going to have 2 triangles. If you're given side, 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 1 triangle. If you're given side, angle, side, 1 triangle. But if you're given the ambiguous case, your angle has to be acute and your corresponding side has to be smaller than the other side. And it could still be 0 or 2, but then we're going to rely on math. And what I'm going to do also in class is to show you an app to convince you of these options so you're not memorizing so much. And maybe it will click more in your brain. So what I'm going to do is go through these examples and we're just going to determine how many triangles. And then the next video we're actually going to solve. Okay, is in example 3, your angle acute or obtuse? It's obtuse. So I'm gonna, not trying to make you dizzy, but I'm gonna go up again. And here I'm looking in this camp. So now comparing the corresponding side to the other side. So I'm gonna go back down. So your corresponding side, hopefully you're getting better with that terminology, would be B. Well, B compared to C, it's less than. Because your corresponding side is less than the other side, it's going to be 0 triangles. And again, I really think when we go over things in class, it will click much better when I show you the app. I just think it's better to be engaged with it versus me making a video on it. Okay. So, and I guess I can explain even further. Remember, you can only have one obtuse angle in your triangle. So if the side across from it, the other way to know that is the corresponding side, that has to be the biggest side, right? Because it's across from the biggest angle. And so that's another reason it would be 0 triangles. There's no such way that would work. All right, let's look at B. You have an acute angle. Your corresponding side compared to the other side. Well, it's less than. Oh, and your teacher is wrong. 3 is bigger than 2, right? It's bigger than. Okay, so I know this because I've been working with it for a while, but as you're doing your homework, you are going to refer to your notes. You shouldn't have it memorized at this point in your life. If you look, and I'm going to go back up, if my corresponding side is bigger or equal to the other side, I have 1 triangle. All right. So for the last one, just to determine how many triangles, it's acute, right? So your corresponding side would be the C, since the angle given to you is C. So C, and I'm going to compare it to the other side, A. Well, C is less than A. And so that puts us in the camp of 0 or 2. And your next video will go over how to solve for these.